For decades, The Benny Hill Show ruled television, captivating millions with its lightning-fast slapstick, cheeky gags, and that instantly recognizable theme music. Benny Hill himself became a comedic icon. His mischievous grin, playful charm, and outrageous sketches turning him into a global superstar. But behind the laughter, trouble was quietly building. One controversial sketch would soon trigger a backlash so fierce that it signaled the beginning of the end for the beloved series. What was intended to be another comedic triumph instead ignited a cultural firestorm, one that exposed larger issues and ultimately contributed to the show's downfall. The program, which ran from 1955 until its cancellation in 1989, had always pushed the boundaries of humor. But in the late 1980s, a particular sketch struck a nerve. It featured Hill spoofing a beauty pageant filled with scantily clad women who were openly ogled and objectified. The segment culminated in a joke many viewers found especially crude and tasteless. By then, public attitudes toward comedy had begun to shift. What had once been dismissed as harmless, cheeky fun was increasingly viewed as outdated and offensive. This sketch became a lightning rod for criticism and brought long, simmering concerns to the forefront. How did a show adored by millions end up facing such dramatic backlash? Before exploring the infamous moment that changed everything, we first look at the life of the man behind the humor. Early life. Alfred Hawthorne Hill, later known worldwide as Benny Hill, was born on January the 21st, 1924, in Southampton, England, though some accounts list his birth year as 1925. His family background was surprisingly artistic. His grandfather, Henry Hill, had been a circus clown, a legacy that clearly influenced Benny's path. His father, Alfred, managed a surgical appliance shop, while his mother, Helen, played a central role in his early life. Hill attended Taunton School, though his education didn't immediately lead him toward show business. Before stepping into entertainment, Hill worked a string of everyday jobs, at Woolworths, as a milkman, a bridge operator, a driver, even a drummer. These varied experiences later enriched the wide range of characters he portrayed in his comedy. His entry into show business came when he joined a touring revue as an assistant stage manager, where he learned the fundamentals of timing, production, and backstage work. In 1942, during World War II, Hill was called up for military service. He trained as a mechanic with the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, gaining technical skills that would shape his resourcefulness later in life. Hill served as a mechanic, truck driver, and searchlight operator, and was deployed to Normandy in September 1944 during one of the war's pivotal campaigns. Eventually, he transferred to the Combined Services Entertainment Division, performing for troops and sharpening the comedic instincts that would later define his television career. Inspired by the great comedians of Britain's music hall tradition, Hill adopted Benny as his stage name in tribute to American comic Jack Benny. Drawing from both his wartime entertainment experience and his musical hall influences, he set out to build his own comedic identity. Early career. Hill's first significant break came through radio. On October 5th, 1947, he debuted on Variety Bandbox, a popular BBC radio program, where his sharp wit and flexible comedic style quickly won over listeners. His success in radio paved the way for his transition to television, which was rapidly becoming the dominant medium. Hill made his TV debut in 1950, where the addition of physical comedy and visual gags allowed his humor to evolve even further. From 1962 to 1963, he starred in an anthology series titled Benny Hill, portraying a new character each episode, a testament to his comedic versatility. In 1964, he surprised audiences by taking on Nick Bottom in a televised production of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. blending classical theater with his signature comedic touch. Between 1964 and 1966, Hill returned to radio with Benny Hill Time, which featured topical humor and parodies of pop culture icons like James Bond and the Beatles. He also developed memorable recurring characters, including Harry Hill and Fred Scuttle, cementing his reputation as a comedic chameleon. Still, despite his growing success, Hill faced challenges early on, especially on stage, where his shows often received mixed reviews. But it was television that would ultimately transform him into a household name. The Benny Hill Show. Hill's rise to television royalty began on January 15, 1955, when The Benny Hill Show premiered on the BBC. Blending British music hall traditions with modern sketch comedy, the program mixed live performances with pre-recorded segments. Hill's trademark blend of slapstick, visual gags, double entendres, and parody quickly attracted a massive audience. Throughout the BBC years, Hill worked with a rotating cast of talented regulars, including Patricia Hayes, Jeremy Hawk, Ronnie Brody, and his co-writer Dave Freeman. Among the many memorable figures was Jackie Wright, the tiny, bald actor who became an audience favorite, particularly as the recipient of Hill's iconic head slaps. Hill briefly experimented with other networks, including ITV and ATV, before making a major shift in 1969. That year, The Benny Hill Show moved to Thames Television, ushering in the golden era of his career. Instead of weekly episodes, the show adopted a format of one-hour specials, giving Hill more time and creative freedom. These specials, filled with elaborate sketches and musical numbers, became an international sensation, airing in over 140 countries. Hill's comedic genius lay in his ability to adopt wildly different personas, from bumbling everymen to pompous authority figures. Though he wrote most of his material, he occasionally used ideas from others. One example was Cherry Gilham, who contributed the Fat Lady sketch that aired in 1977. Perhaps the most iconic element of the show was the sped-up chase sequence that ended many episodes. Using undercranking to create fast, exaggerated movement, Hill and the cast, grannies, policemen, vicars, and scantily clad women, ran across chaotic landscapes to the lively tune of Yakety Sax. The music became so synonymous with Hill's comedy that in 2015, it was voted the most popular TV theme in an ITV poll. In the 1980s, the show evolved further with the introduction of Hill's Angels, a troupe of glamorous dancers who appeared in both choreographed routines and sketches. While they added energy and visual appeal, they also became a focal point for critics accusing the show of sexism. Notable angels included Sue Upton and Jane Leeves, the latter of whom would go on to star in Frasier. Supporting actors like Henry McGee, Bob Todd, Jackie Wright, and Hill's Little Angels, including the children of cast and crew, continued to enrich the show's sketches. Jenny Lee Wright, nicknamed the Sexiest Stooge, joined the show in 1970 and quickly carved out her own space in Benny Hill's comedic universe. Audiences loved her. She had the perfect mix of glamour, sharp comedic instincts, and fearless commitment to slapstick. Whether she was dodging a pie, sprinting through a chase scene, or delivering a perfectly timed reaction, she elevated every sketch she appeared in. Her roles often played on a blend of sensuality and self-aware humor, making her one of the show's most memorable female performers. But even as The Benny Hill Show enjoyed global success, cracks were beginning to form behind the scenes. By the mid-1980s, the television landscape had changed dramatically. Society was evolving, and so were its expectations of what comedy should look like. Feminist groups, critics, and media watchdogs began scrutinizing the show's content more closely. What had once been seen as light-hearted, cheeky fun was now being labeled outdated, sexist, and insensitive. Hill's reliance on scantily clad dancers, innuendo-driven humor, and the objectification of women became a central point of criticism. Organizations such as the British group Media Watch and numerous public commentators argued that the show reinforced harmful stereotypes. Broadcasters, sensing the cultural shift and wary of public backlash, began to distance themselves from programming that could be viewed as offensive or regressive. The tension finally came to a head with the infamous sketch that sparked the firestorm, the beauty pageant parody that featured women being objectified while Hill played it for laughs. The joke itself wasn't entirely new for the show, but the climate around it had changed dramatically. Viewers who once shrugged off the innuendo were now calling it tasteless, even demeaning. This was the sketch that critics launched into, the moment that symbolized everything they believed was wrong with the show. Complaints poured in. Media debates erupted. Newspapers accused Hill of refusing to evolve. And industry insiders began questioning whether the show still belonged on television at all. Television, the network behind the series, this backlash came at a time when they were already facing financial pressures and trying to modernize their programming. A show once celebrated as a global sensation was suddenly overshadowed by controversy. And despite Benny Hill's undeniable talent, charm, and the millions he continued to draw worldwide, in 1989, after more than 3 decades on the air, The Benny Hill Show was abruptly canceled. Hill himself was blindsided. He believed he had given audiences what they wanted, timeless comedy rooted in slapstick tradition. The sudden end left him reeling, and the backlash deeply affected him emotionally and professionally. Yet the legacy of the show remains complicated. It is remembered both for its groundbreaking comedic innovations and for the controversy that ultimately took it down. But how did Benny Hill react in the final years of his life? What happened after the cameras stopped rolling? And how did the world respond to the silence that followed his once unstoppable comedic reign?